My name is Lucas Hayes. I thought I wanted peace. I thought I wanted isolation. I thought I wanted silence. But silence doesn't exist here. I arrived at the cabin just before sunset. The Montana sky was a mix of orange and gray, and the wind whispered through the pine trees like secrets I couldn't quite hear. The cabin was small, wooden, and lonely, paint peeling, windows clouded with dust, the smell of old pine and mildew filling the air. I dropped my bags on the floor. Empty, quiet, too quiet. I should have felt relief. Instead, I felt watched. The first night, I heard it. Not a sound that made sense, just a faint crackle, like a radio trying to speak but failing, static, and then a whisper. I froze. It said nothing I could understand, or maybe it was trying to call my name. I laughed nervously. Just the wind, I told myself. But the hairs on my neck refused to lie. I unpacked my camera gear, hoping to distract myself. City life had left me tired and drained. Photography had always been my escape. Now, I felt my escape was watching me back. The next morning, I explored the property, a small clearing, a stream, and the thick forest behind. Everything looked normal, almost too normal. I noticed footprints near the stream. Not mine, not recent, old, faded, unmistakably human. I shrugged it off. Maybe hikers, maybe a lost hunter. I tried to shake the thought. When night fell again, the forest seemed alive. Shadows moved in ways they shouldn't. Branches snapped, leaves rustled, and my cabin door creaked. I checked the locks. Everything was secure. I double-checked the windows. Nothing had changed, but the whispers returned clearer this time. A voice that almost sounded like me, Lucas. I spun around. Nothing, just darkness pressing against the windows. I decided to record it. Set up my phone and camera by the window, hoping to capture the sounds I refused to believe. Around 2:47 a.m., the crackling stopped. Then came a sound that made my blood run cold. A soft, rhythmic tapping. Not on the windows. Not outside. Inside the cabin. I held my breath. My heart pounded. The tapping moved closer. Step by step, coming from the hallway outside my bedroom. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. But my legs refused to obey. Then, silence. I waited. Minutes passed. Nothing. I dared to breathe. And then the whisper returned, closer this time. You're here. You can't leave. I grabbed my camera, recorded the hallway. Every creak, every shadow, every whisper. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The next morning, the forest looked the same. Sunlight through the trees, birds chirping. And yet I knew something was different. The world felt thinner, less solid. I walked to the stream again, footprints closer this time. Leading toward the cabin, I didn't follow them. By evening, the radio static returned. I turned it on, hoping for news or music. Instead, a voice whispered my full name. Clear, distinct, I fled back to the cabin. Locked the doors. I blocked the windows. But deep down, I knew. It wouldn't help. Something was waiting. Something in the forest. Something patient. Something that knew I had arrived. And it was only getting started. Night fell fast. The forest seemed darker than before. Shadows stretched unnaturally. The wind carried whispers that weren't there in the day. I tried to stay calm, tried to focus on my breathing. Every instinct told me to run. But curiosity rooted me in place. Around 1:03 a.m., my camera caught movement. A shape, tall and thin, gliding silently between the trees. Not a human, not an animal. My fingers trembled. I zoomed in. The figure paused, its head tilted unnaturally. I couldn't see a face. Just darkness where features should be, and the static returned. Louder now, pulsing through the cabin walls. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. My throat was dry, my legs felt like lead. Then, the tapping, slow, deliberate, moving from the hallway toward my bedroom. I grabbed my flashlight. Shone it into the hallway. Nothing. Just the dim reflection of the cabin walls. A whisper came from the corner. Clear. Lucas. My name. I ran to the door. Locked it. Checked the windows. They were all intact. Nothing was inside. The whispers didn't stop. They circled me, echoing from every wall. You can't leave. You can't escape. My camera was recording. I prayed it would capture proof. Evidence that I wasn't imagining it. Something tangible. Hours passed. Minutes felt like days. Exhaustion pulled at me. Fear kept me awake. At 3:14 a.m., Everything stopped. Silence. Not even the wind moved. The forest held its breath. I dared to step outside, only for a moment. The footprints returned, closer now, leading to the cabin's back door. I didn't follow them. Instead, I went back inside. Tried to convince myself it was imagination, but deep down, I knew. Something waited, patient, silent, watching, and I realized. This was no ordinary forest, no ordinary figure. This was something ancient. Something aware. My phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. You're not alone. My heart skipped, my hands shook. I deleted the message. But it didn't leave. The whispers returned. Louder now, almost calling, almost inviting. I sat in the corner, huddled with my camera. Hoping morning would come, hoping whatever this was would leave, but I knew it wouldn't. Night after night, the forest would call. And I would have to answer. Morning arrived gray and cold. The forest looked calm in daylight, but I knew better. The shadows didn't vanish, they only hid. I inspected the cabin. Nothing was disturbed. The footprints outside had vanished. My camera still hummed quietly. Reviewing the footage, my blood ran cold. Frames of the tall, thin figure gliding through the trees. No face, no features. Just dark, formless movement. I needed answers. The cabin had been abandoned for decades. Why was it calling me? Why was this thing attached to me? I searched the walls. Old carvings, decades old, hidden behind peeling wallpaper. Symbols I didn't recognize, twisted letters, etched deeply. One symbol repeated over and over. A door. A rectangle. Always opening, always closing. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Text. You should have stayed away. Panic rose in my chest. I tried calling the number. No answer, just static. The forest outside grew darker by noon. Clouds moved fast and naturally. The wind whispered my name, Lucas. I discovered a trapdoor beneath the cabin floorboards. Hidden under decades of dust, a faint light flickered below. Something called me downward. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed to run. But dangerous curiosity pulled me in. I opened the trapdoor slowly. A staircase descended into blackness. The air smelled damp, decayed. A hum echoed faintly from below. My camera recorded as I stepped down. Each step groaned. The hum grew louder. Almost like a heartbeat. At the bottom, I saw it. Walls covered in old photographs. Faces, eyes scratched out, letters written in blood or something like it. Names I couldn't read. And in the corner, the tall, thin figure stood perfectly still, waiting, watching. I froze. The static returned, loud, piercing, surrounding me. You shouldn't be here. My camera captured everything, but when I tried to look closer, the footage glitched, corrupted, erased. The figure moved. Its movements unnatural. It tilted its head. A whisper came through the air, clear. Do you want to see? I wanted to run. My legs refused. The staircase behind me had vanished. Only the basement, dark and endless, remained. A soft click echoed. Another door appeared on the wall. Not there before, a rectangle forming slowly. And I realized, this was its domain. Every door led somewhere it controlled, and I had entered willingly. My breath caught, my heart pounded. I had no escape. The figure's shadow stretched across the walls. And it whispered once more, your curiosity will cost you. The basement stretched beyond what my eyes could see. Walls twisted unnaturally. Ceiling bent down like it was breathing. The air thickened. Every breath tasted like iron. The figure moved closer, silent, gliding. Its shadow stretched into shapes I couldn't comprehend. Each step I took echoed too loudly, as if the place didn't want me here. Doors appeared on every wall. Some small, some tall. Each one pulsed softly, whispering my name, Lucas. I touched the nearest door. Cold, almost wet. It seemed alive, and it opened before my hand left. Inside, a hallway stretched endlessly, flickering lights above. Floorboards creaked under my weight. I stepped in cautiously. The door behind me vanished. Panic surged. The walls seemed to pulse, breathing. Whispers everywhere, names, cries, please. My own voice joined the chorus. I ran down the hallway. Every turn led to another identical hallway. I was lost. My camera barely kept up, filming what I could barely see. Shadows danced along the walls. One door glowed faintly. A warm light spilled out. Hope. Safety. I ran toward it. I opened it. Empty room. A single mirror in the center. My reflection, but wrong. My eyes were pale. Behind me, the tall figure appeared. Silent. Waiting. Its face elongated unnaturally. It pointed toward the hallway. I turned to run. New doors formed instantly, blocking every exit. Panic turned to dread. The whispers grew louder. You belong here? A door slammed behind me, another in front. I realized the hallways were alive. Feeding, learning. My phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. Do you see now? The camera caught movement behind the figure. More shadows, more forms. All watching me, waiting, calculating. I stumbled into another room. Dust-covered chairs, broken furniture. Symbols scratched into the walls. The same door rectangle. A whisper drifted through the air. You cannot leave what you enter willingly. My hands shook. I pressed them to the wall. The paint was cold, almost pulsing. I felt a heartbeat. The figure moved closer. Shadows stretched across the floor. My reflection in the broken mirror shifted. It smiled. Not me. A faint click echoed. Another door appeared behind the mirror. I had no choice. I stepped through, and fell. Darkness swallowed me, my camera still recording. The whispers merged into a chant. Open, open, open. My vision blurred. I landed in another hallway, taller than before, narrower, the air thick with unseen eyes. The doors pulsed around me. I realized. This place wasn't a cabin, it was a gateway, a labyrinth. And I was its newest prisoner. The hallway stretched endlessly. Every step echoed like a drum. My breathing was loud, ragged. Shadows moved independently of the light. I knew I was being watched. The doors pulsed again. A soft, blue glow leaked from one. My instinct screamed to avoid it. But I approached. I couldn't resist. I opened it slowly. Darkness. Thick. Alive. I stepped in cautiously. Eyes appeared. Hundreds. Small, glowing, floating. They followed me, whispered my name, Lucas. My heart skipped. My feet moved on their own. Toward the center of the room, where a faint shape waited, a figure emerged, shattered, jagged, like glass. Its face flickered between human and something else. You shouldn't be here, it said. The voice echoed in every direction. I tried to run. The doors shifted, trapping me. The eyes multiplied, filling the room. I stumbled over a chair. The figure loomed above me. Cold, silent, familiar in the worst way. Do you see now? It whispered. I shivered. The walls began to move, stretching, forming shapes that made no sense. Another door slammed. I spun around. A shadow figure stepped through. Taller, older. I realized. I wasn't alone. Not just the figure. Not just the eyes. Something else had followed me. My camera captured movement behind the shadows. I glimpsed hands, pale, claw-like, reaching out. Whispering in unison, open, open. Fear paralyzed me. The figure extended its hand, slowly, deliberately. I tried to retreat. Another set of eyes appeared. Glowing red, silent, judging. The floorboards cracked beneath me. The ceiling drooped. It was like the room itself was alive, breathing, watching. I remembered the camera. Maybe it could record what was happening. I raised it shakily. The screen flickered. Nothing. The figure smiled. A slow, unnatural curl of lips. You cannot leave, it said. My blood ran cold. The eyes blinked in unison. You opened the door. My stomach dropped. The whispers grew louder. The walls pulsed violently. Every heartbeat echoed through the labyrinth. I ran toward the nearest door. My legs burned. My lungs screamed. But the doors moved, rearranging themselves. Another figure appeared behind me, same as the first. Shadowed, solid, reaching. Whispering, stay. Panic clawed inside me. I was trapped, surrounded. The walls hummed. The hallway stretched farther than before. My camera captured it all. Every figure, every eye. Every moving shadow. I realized. I couldn't escape. The figures moved closer. The eyes followed. The whispers became screams. Opened the doors. I stumbled forward blindly. One door glowed faintly ahead. It seemed Safer. I ran. The floorboards cracked violently. Behind me, the figures multiplied. I reached the door. Hand on the handle. Cold metal. Pulse beating in my fingers. I twisted it slowly. Darkness swallowed me. My vision blurred. The whispers turned into a chant. Open. 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 The air thickened around me. I fell forward. The camera slipped from my hand. I hit the ground hard. The door behind me vanished. My reflection appeared in the floor, but it wasn't me. Pale, broken, hollow, eyes black as void. Mouth stretched into an unnatural smile. It whispered my name, Lucas. I scrambled to my feet, heart hammering. The hallway stretched endlessly ahead. I had no choice. I moved forward. Every step echoed. The whispers grew louder. Figures danced along the walls. Eyes followed every motion. I felt their hunger. Another door appeared. This one radiated red. Heat pulsed from it. I froze. Something inside it, alive. The figures closed in. I raised my camera again. The screen flickered. I saw the inside of the door. A glowing void. Step inside. The shadows whispered. Step inside. Forever. My hands shook uncontrollably. Breath ragged. I knew I had no choice. One step. And the world around me changed. The hallway shifted violently. I fell into the unknown. Darkness enveloped me. Whispers still chasing. Figures surrounding. Eyes never blinking. I was lost. I fell endlessly. The void consumed everything. No light. No sound. Only the pulse of my heartbeat. Then, faintly, a hum. Low. Vibrating. Surrounding me. Drawing me forward. The shadows followed. Figures emerging from the darkness. Eyes glowing brighter. Whispering in unison. Follow. 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 I stumbled through invisible walls. The air thick, almost solid. Breathing heavy. Every step echoed farther than it should. Time seemed to stretch. A doorway appeared. Floating midair. No frame. No handle. Just a soft red glow. My instinct screamed to avoid it. But I stepped through. Immediate cold. The hum twisted into a storm of whispers. Voices overlapping. Each word sharp. Cutting into my mind. Reflections shimmered on the walls. Thousands of versions of me, all trapped, all screaming silently, eyes hollow. One figure approached, slow, familiar, the jagged figure from the hallway, grinning, reaching out its hand. I ran. The labyrinth shifted. Corridors twisted, ceilings bent downward. Floors rippled like water. Another door appeared, a green glow this time, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. I hesitated. Could this be a way out? The shadows screeched, figures multiplying. Eyes began forming on every surface around me. I felt them watching, judging. I had no choice. I stepped through the green glow, and when I emerged, there was only silence. The glow faded behind me. The shadows retreated like they were afraid of something, or someone. A hollow space stretched out before me, nothing but mist and cold stone. At the center stood a pedestal, and on it, a black crystal, pulsing with a faint red light. Calling to me, pulling at something deep inside my chest. I moved toward it slowly. The air thickened. My chest ached. The whispers returned, louder than before. Touch it, touch it. Every part of me screamed no, but my hand still rose, trembling, hovering over the crystal. The moment my fingers brushed its surface, a shock ripped through me. Memories flooded my mind, memories that weren't mine, faces I'd never seen, places I'd never been, pain, fear, joy. Everything at once. I collapsed. The crystal's light expanded, filling the entire chamber. Shadows surged around me, screaming in unison. It is ours. It is ours. I felt myself being lifted, pulled toward the crystal. Images flashed. The woods, the abandoned town, the signal tower, every path I had taken, all leading here. The truth hit me. The labyrinth wasn't random. It was alive, feeding on lost souls. Every choice I'd made was part of its design. I tried to pull away. My strength failed. Then a deep voice echoed. Welcome, Seeker. You may join us, or leave broken. The crystal pulsed with my heartbeat. Panic surged. And then I saw it. A faint outline of a doorway behind the pedestal. Barely visible, but real. An exit. I lunged. The whispers became screams. Shadows clawed at my arms. Every step grew heavier. The door wavered, then solidified. My fingers wrapped around the cold metal. The shadows recoiled. My heart pounded like war drums. I shoved with everything I had. A crack of light spilled through. Hope surged. I slipped inside. The door slammed shut behind me. Darkness. Absolute darkness. Only the sound of my own breath. I felt along the wall cold stone, damp air. My eyes adjusted, revealing twisted roots and vines blocking the path. The crystal's pulse echoed faintly through the walls. The labyrinth was reaching for me, trying to pull me back. I pushed forward. A narrow corridor appeared ahead, moonlight filtering in. I sprinted. Branches whipped against my arms. Roots tried to trip me. I stumbled, pain shot through my ankle, but I forced myself up. The whispers followed. You cannot leave, not yet. The corridor twisted unnaturally, stretching farther with every step. Footsteps echoed behind me, heavy, unnatural. Something massive was chasing me. I turned. Shadows converged into a tall shape, limbs like branches, eyes glowing faint red. I ran. The exit appeared ahead, light cracking through stone above. I dove forward, bursting into a clearing. Moonlight poured down. The shadows stopped at the edge, afraid to enter. Silence. Then I saw it. A faint glow deeper in the clearing. I followed it to a small stone structure, covered in moss. Inside, a sanctuary. The walls shimmered with symbols glowing to the pulse of the crystal. A haven, but only for a moment. The walls trembled. Shadows pressed at the doorway. The crystal pulsed violently, its light cutting through the darkness. A voice whispered, "You cannot hide forever." I had a choice, fight, or escape. Instinct chose escape. One symbol on the wall glowed brighter than the rest, a hidden door. I followed it. The sanctuary shook as shadows clawed behind me. I slipped into a narrow tunnel. Cold, but safe. The shadows couldn't follow. The tunnel guided me through symbols, warnings, ancient stories. Some travelers escaped, some didn't. I walked into a grand chamber. Carved faces watched me from the walls. In the center, another pedestal, holding a black orb. The crystal vibrated violently. The orb called to me. Visions struck, forests burning, people screaming, the labyrinth feeding on fear. A voice whispered, "Only the worthy may claim the signal." The orb pulsed, shadows howled. I raised the crystal. The orb cracked, light flooding the chamber. And a shimmering door appeared, floating in midair. The crystal hummed as I stepped forward. Shadows lunged, but the door opened with a blast of light. With a blast of light, moonlit forest, silver mist. Endless trees. I stepped through. The forest watched me, eyes in the mist too many to count. Something followed, waiting. I reached a clearing, another pedestal. The orb lifted from my hand, merging with a glow above it. A shockwave ripped through the forest. Figures formed from the mist, tall, cloaked in shadow, watching, silently. One stepped forward. Its voice wasn't sound, it was thought. "You are not ready, yet you carry the signal." The forest shifted around me, forming a path of silver light. The orb guided me onward. The mist twisted into faces, my memories. My fears, my past. I faced them, accepted them. KM, a reflection of myself, spoke. "You are ready." The river of silver light opened into a bridge. I stepped onto it, every step heavier than the last. Halfway across, a growl echoed. A massive shadow beast lunged from the fog. The orb flashed, forming a shield. The creature roared, "Face your fear, or be consumed." I didn't run. I accepted every fear within me. The beast dissolved into mist. The bridge glowed brighter, but ahead. The shadows twisted into shapes I had never imagined. I stepped off the bridge onto a narrow path lined with twisted trees. Their branches formed arches overhead, like skeletal hands reaching for the sky. A faint whispering floated through the fog, calling my name. "Daniel, Daniel." I shivered but pressed on. The whispers became sentences, fragments of forgotten memories. "You should have stayed. You shouldn't have left." I shook my head, trying to block them. My fingers brushed against the orb, and it glowed brighter. The warmth reminded me to focus. Each step seemed to stretch time itself. Shadows twisted into shapes I almost recognized, faces of people I'd never met. They whispered regrets, promises, and fears. I realized the path was feeding off my own doubts. If I faltered, the whispers would become chains. A sudden rustling to my left made me spin around. Nothing, only fog curling and folding like a living thing. I took a deep breath, grounding myself. "Focus on the light," I muttered. Suddenly, a shadow lunged from the mist, a figure draped in tattered robes. Its face was hidden, but I could feel its gaze drilling into me. The whispers intensified, now a cacophony of voices. My knees shook, but I held the orb high. It pulsed with power, and the shadow froze. The voice came, low and echoing. "Why do you carry the light? You are not ready." I clenched my teeth, refusing to respond. Instead, I walked forward slowly, each step steady despite my fear. The mist thickened, forming walls that seemed almost solid. "Daniel, Daniel," the whispers continued, now mocking. I realized they weren't just voices, they were testing my resolve. I forced myself to focus on the orb, letting its light guide me. Shapes in the mist shifted into doors I had never seen before. Some flickered like they weren't fully there. I understood the trial. The forest was showing me possibilities, fears, and choices. One wrong step and I could be trapped forever. My heart raced, but determination steadied me. I whispered to myself, I control the path, not the whispers. The path ahead shimmered, revealing a faint glimmer of something beyond the mist. As I stepped closer to the glimmer, the mist thickened unnaturally. It wrapped around my legs like icy chains. I tightened my grip on the orb, feeling its warmth seep into me. A voice echoed, cold and sharp, "You have come far, Daniel. But can you endure?" Suddenly, the ground beneath me cracked. Shadowy figures began to rise from the gaps, their forms flickering. Faces twisted with anger, sorrow, and fear. They reached toward me, their hands clawing at the air. I could hear whispers of my failures, imagined and real, all at once. I swung the orb like a shield, and the figures recoiled. Light pushed back the shadows, but more appeared from the fog. Each step forward required effort, every inch contested. The forest seemed alive, feeding on my hesitation. I realized the trial wasn't physical, it was mental. The shadows merged into a single figure, towering and indistinct. Its voice was a chorus of all the whispers, "Leave, or join us forever." I took a deep breath, letting the orb's warmth flow through me. "I will not leave," I said aloud. The figure surged forward, and I felt a pressure against my chest. My vision blurred, memories flashing my childhood, regrets, moments of cowardice. The orb pulsed violently, pushing the shadows away in a blinding flare. When my eyes adjusted, the figure was still there, but smaller, weakened. It hissed, but the whispers no longer had power over me. A narrow path appeared ahead, lined with stones that glowed faintly. I realized this was the exit of the first trial. But one shadow lingered, drifting toward me silently. It reached out with a single hand, gray and clawed. The orb flared again, sending a wave of light that shattered the lingering darkness. I stepped onto the glowing path. Each stone seemed to pulse with life, responding to my heartbeat. The whispers faded, replaced by a low hum of energy. I felt a strange connection with the forest, as if it were acknowledging my resolve. Still, fear lingered, gnawing at the edges of my mind. At the end of the path, a wooden gate appeared, old but intact. Beyond it, a clearing bathed in moonlight. Relief washed over me, but I knew this was only the first trial. The orb pulsed one last time, warm and steady, as if affirming my courage. I took a step forward, ready for whatever lay ahead. The moonlight in the clearing was deceptive, to calm, to still. A chill ran down my spine as I stepped closer. Shadows from the surrounding trees stretched unnaturally, like fingers. I held the orb tighter, feeling its warmth steady my nerves. Suddenly, the wind shifted, carrying a sound that didn't belong. A low, guttural growl echoed from the forest's edge. Leaves rustled violently, but no breeze moved them. The orb pulsed faster, warning me of danger. From the tree line, two glowing eyes appeared. They moved silently, stalking me with predatory precision. The creature stepped into the clearing, tall, skeletal, with skin stretched tight over its bones. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of jagged teeth, but it made no sound. I realized this was the second trial, a creature of instinct and fear. My heart raced, but I remembered the first trial's lesson. Fear could not control me. I raised the orb, its light slicing through the darkness. The creature hissed, recoiling slightly. It lunged, fast and silent, and I barely dodged. The ground shook under its weight, trees swaying as if alive. I ran toward the clearing's center, looking for anything to aid me. A cluster of stones glowed faintly in a circle. I jumped onto them instinctively, feeling energy surge through my feet. The orb's light merged with the stone's glow, creating a protective aura. The creature skidded to a stop, snarling at the barrier I had formed. "This isn't over," I whispered. The creature vanished suddenly, melting into the shadows of the forest. Silence returned, but the air felt heavy, charged with unseen eyes. I realized the trials weren't just tests, they were preparing me. I took a deep breath, scanning the clearing. At the far end, a narrow passage appeared between the trees. It shimmered faintly, almost like a mirage. The orb's light pulsed in response, guiding me forward. Each step was cautious, but I felt a new confidence. The forest no longer seemed entirely hostile. Instead, it felt aware, observing my every move. The whispers from before were gone, replaced by a quiet hum of energy. As I entered the passage, the shadows deepened again. Shapes moved just out of sight, watching, waiting. I gripped the orb tighter, feeling its warmth reassure me. Ahead, a faint light suggested the next trial more dangerous, more demanding. The passage narrowed, forcing me to walk single file between twisted roots. Every step echoed unnaturally, as if the forest was amplifying my presence. The orb's glow grew stronger, pulsing in sync with my heartbeat. Shadows danced along the walls, sometimes forming shapes, sometimes faces. A whisper cut through the silence. "You cannot proceed." The voice was low, almost metallic, yet unmistakably alive. I paused, searching for its source. There was nothing but the forest, yet it felt everywhere. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shifted. Roots emerged like serpents, curling around my ankles. I jumped back, barely avoiding the constriction. The orb blazed brightly, slicing through the darkness. From the shadows ahead, a figure emerged, tall-cloaked, with no face,